Hello fellow 3D enthusiast, my name is Ian. Today we're going to be making some Poofy space socks, as you can see here. So I was working on this guy for a contest entry and I did a quick SketchUp. As you can see here, I kind of want some clothish material down here for the lower legs to kind of cover up the robotic part of this guy here. So I already did this as a test, and now let's work on this leg and I'll just show you my process going through it. So first of all, I'm going to hop into edit mode and just get kind of this upper ring here so it kind of fits well. I'm going to select the vertex on the edge here and then hold down Control. And I'm just going to select a path around there. I'm going to hit Shift D, copy that, and right click just so it's in the same place. And then I'm going to hit P to make the selection its own object. Now back into object mode, let's select this ring that we just created. Hop back into edit mode, select all with A, and now I'm just going to take this and kind of drag it up to this area up here. So E to extrude, and there we go. So we got a few issues right here. First of all, it's not lined up correctly, but also we have some modifiers that we don't really need at the moment. I'm going to take out my solidify and bevel, don't need those. So I'm just going to work on lining this up a little bit better here. If we go into the side and front views and hit Z and go down to toggle X-ray, we can actually see what we're doing. Just going to hit R a few times to rotate this, make sure it's roughly lined up. So let's scale that up a little bit with S. And now what I'm going to do with that still selected is right click and go loop tools, and then I'm going to go circle. And if you don't have loop tools, that is an add-on. It's already with Blender, so if we just type in loop, you can find loop tools pretty easily, and it saves me a lot of time when I just want to do simple things like this to make circles. So as we look at this, you can see it's not quite lined up once again. So I'm going to hit R twice and just keep working on lining that up with this metal circle around the top. So I'd kind of like to have a little bit of a gap in the mesh here where this hard surface element comes up. So if we take a closer look here, it's pretty much well lined up except for this little gap here. So I'm going to select this lower vertex here, hit G twice, and that will slide the edge, but I want it to go the other way. So I'm going to hit C and that will kind of extrapolate it. Nice. I'm going to grab this bottom edge here and just drag it down a little bit so we don't see the edge of that around the loop down there. And I'm liking how this is looking. So let's add in another loop cut in the middle here with Control R. And I'm just going to drop that there. And if you don't know, calves kind of bulge out a little bit. So I'm going to try and get that a little bit of a muscular look. Even though it's a robot, I'd like to have that look going on. I'm going to select these two vertices here in the front. And I'm going to go Shift S, cursor to selected. And then I'm going to hit period. And I'm going to go 3D cursor here. And that way it will scale around the 3D cursor. So when I select everything, our gizmo is still there. And when we hit S, it will scale out from that. And that's a little bit extreme at the moment, but once we put on the cloth simulation, I think it'll start to look a little bit better. Okay, this is lined up fairly well. I'm liking the way it's looking. If we select everything once more and select this loop here, I'm going to hit Control B to bevel it, and that will kind of smooth things out. And then if we scroll up on our mouse wheel, I'm just going to add in a few more cuts there. And we've got a fairly smooth shape going on. And I've got enough cuts in here so this will look kind of like a square. There's some more rectangular things down here, but generally when you're working with simulations, you want to have square faces. So now that we're set there, I'm going to go into the modifier tab and add in a subdivision surface modifier. For now, let's just hop over to the simulation tab, wherever that may be. Let's see, here we go. And I'm just going to add a cloth sim. So you can see immediately it kind of disappears, which we don't like. It's down there. The reason it's down there is we don't have anything pinned at the moment. So what I'm going to do is go back to the start of my animation down here, and now I'm going to go into edit mode. So in edit mode, if we hit Alt and Shift and then select the edges down here, and then along the sides here, it's a little bit hard to see, and then the top, we want everything selected around the edge, and then everything in the middle is fine that way. I'm going to hit Control G and then assign to new group, and that will get our selected vertices in its own little vertex group. If we hop over to the object data properties, you can see our vertex groups here and group. I'm going to change this to be pin, just enter in my pin number. Wait, no, not that. Back in the physics tab, if we go down to where it says shape, there's a little slot here for pin group, and we can just type in pin. And there's our group. Cool. And this will just hold these vertices in place. Now let's just hop into our modifier panel real quick, add some more vertices for it to work with the subdivision surface, so viewport 2. And if we hit play here, it will start to deform and go crazy. And that's a pretty nice wrinkly look going on there, but we kind of want it to puff out like this one. Thankfully, in Blender 2.8, there's a new feature that will help us out here. If we go into our physics tab and then go to pressure, check that. And if you want this to look a little bit better, we can go into our subdivision settings once more and just crank this up a little bit more. And restart, and let's try it again. Whoa, yeah. So we have a lot of detail going on here, and it's actually collapsing a little bit more than I would like. And it looks like the more vertices you have going, the more pressure you'll need to push them outwards. So I'm going to actually crank this up to 30 here. And if we restart the animation, we get some nice creases, but it still keeps a lot of its shape, which is exactly what we want. Now if you see over here, there's some kind of weird wrinkles going on here, which aren't exactly physically correct. And if you go into the camera view, I think it looks alright, which is what we're going for. We want it to look good from the camera view mainly. And you can't really see all this on this side from the camera view. So what I'm going to do is actually go into our modifier panel once more. I'm going to hit apply for the subdivision and apply for the cloth simulation. And now if we go into edit mode and look, you can see it is all applied, and this is just what the mesh looks like now. I would recommend finding something that you actually like before you do that, but once you do have something you like, we can right click and shade smooth, and it starts to look pretty good. But let's just go one step further and get some nice noticeable wrinkles going on here. So for this, I'm going to go tab and go into sculpt mode, and I'm going to get this draw brush here up at the top working. I think if we turn down the radius, that'll be pretty good. And at this point, if you have like a drawing tablet, I recommend using that. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of draw some wrinkles and just kind of get them to bunch up a little bit. Usually tension comes kind of from the top, so maybe do some of this. And it doesn't really look amazing, but it does give you the idea of cloth, which is kind of what I'm going for. If you want, you can just kind of accentuate what's going on already with the cloth simulation that you had before. And if we look in the camera view, it looks kind of crazy. So I'm just going to tone that down a bit. If we hit period on the number pad, we can zoom in back to what we were working on. So it looks alright from here, but from here, it's, yeah, kind of crazy looking. So first of all, I'm just going to draw this little line up here, kind of get some stuff going on there. And if it looks like it's too much, we can go to the smooth brush here, get this nice and big, and I'm going to keep the strength there for now, and we're just kind of smooth it out a little bit. If we look back, that's not bad looking, but I'd kind of like to get some grooves in here. So if we go back to our draw brush and hold down Control, that will actually push in the selection, or like push in what we're drawing over, rather than pushing it out. And that's a look that I kind of like there. So you can do this kind of thing to all over the mesh if you want. I might recommend adding like duplicating the object after you do the cloth simulation, so you can start over again if you want. Another thing that you can do is kind of add indents around the hard surface areas. So holding down Control once again pushes it inwards, and we can kind of just go along the edge here and make sure these are all pushed in nicely. I'm really liking the look of that because it kind of adds some interaction to your other objects in the scene. But yeah, that's pretty much my process for making these poofy space sock type things. So that'll about do it for this tutorial. If you found this helpful and you'd like to see more tutorials like it, there's a link in the description which will sign you up for my email list. I've got a free gift for you once you do that. There's a pack of hydraulic kit bash elements that are completely free. I'll make sure and send a download link over to you, and I will also update you on future tutorials. So if you're interested in that, give it a go. And other than that, I'll see you next week. Cheers!